Oh, we are. Excellent, excellent. Well, let's call this meeting to order on the October 21st of 2024, the PPAC meeting. I'll stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, God, liberty and justice for all. All right. Roll call. Nancy is here, Marty is here, Alan is here, Peggy is here, Ed is here, Tom is here, and John is here, and Laura is here. So we're in attendance. Do we have any public comments?
We do not.
Excellent. All right, so let's move on to the approval of the September 12th, 2024 minutes.
Make a motion to approve the September 12th, 2024 meeting.
Marty has moved. John has seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, let's go into our financial report. Looking at the August.
These are as of August.
And you said this has changed substantially.
August has not changed, the September ones compared to the, not substantially, but there are changes. September, the financials that were published as of September 30th are preliminary unaudited, and because it's year end, we normally don't post anything to the month. The financials are, like I get like 5 days and I can't post anything anymore to that month, and then we run the financials. But because it's year end, we gave our standard. Actually, it was probably almost 10 days before we time for September, but I still have another that will be double checking things were allocated correctly to the best of our knowledge, and then I'll have like a final preliminary set of September financials, which is what you will see the information for in your. So that's the September financials that were in the board book last week are already outdated. Okay. So
it's a fast moving time.
Yeah.
When does the fiscal year end?
September 30.
September 30.
Yes, we go October 1 to. So. Make sure your buttons are
Yeah.
up too.
Buttons up.
I forgot to check those.
Laura,
No, it's on.
So
Yeah.
when we see the end of year in November, will we also see October?
No, because I don't get, the day that you have your meetings is the day I get the financials, so
Okay.
that doesn't give me enough
So
time to get it
when
done.
does that catch
Yours
up?
are, it won't. And as long as you keep having your meetings on the second Thursday of the month, it's not ever gonna happen,
Right.
because that's the day I get my financials.
So we'll always be basically 6 weeks behind and seeing the
Correct.
final.
But you can check the board book. The next board meeting, your financials are all in there as well. It's just not this format, but the financials are all there. So all this information is available, will be available that day or the next day, like the day of your meeting, it'll be in the board book because of the financials, or it'll be posted the next day. So you'll be able to see them. It's just not in this format until the next month. So we aren't hiding the numbers from
No,
you.
just curious.
I'm just not able to present them because I don't have them until the day of your meeting. And they normally come late in the day, and I'm normally here while they come. So even if I rushed to update them, I wouldn't be able to show them to you.
Just want to understand it.
Yep, that's
And
why.
Tom, we have talked about moving our meeting,
Right,
but
that's
we
what
are
it is.
kind of constrained by the, when the Board of
Board of
Supervisors
Supervisors, right.
meets.
Sure.
We have to kind of be in between them so that we can have the progression.
Right.
Always
I said, well, the financials are published. They're just, you won't see it in this format, but your balance sheet and your income statement, everything is all out there by like the Friday, the day after your meeting, in the board book. So you can see it there, just not in this format. And I put it into this, but I wait until your next meeting to do it.
Laura, I assume we're gonna be talking about the paying off the bond, but
Yep,
what
it's
pot
actually
of
item
money, what pot of
8D.
money was this gonna come out of?
I'm sorry,
What pot of money is it gonna come out of?
capital reserves.
Out of the capital?
Yep, that's what you voted. We have that, it's item, we'll get to that down later in the agenda. It's actually an agenda item.
Okay, thank you.
I do not. I know Chelsea poked again, the board approved a steeper discount and we still haven't.
Nobody's buying it.
Nope. Okay.
About 6 more months.
Right. Oh, trust me, we know. We're bugging them, but yeah, nobody's biting.
Does anybody have any questions on the August?
And I did include each of the subcommittees like you requested in here as well,
Thank
so
you.
you see the same reports.
I have none.
I have none.
Move to accept.
You don't have to. They're informational. Yeah. But thank you.
All right, then let's move on to the subcommittee updates. We'll start with landscape submitted by Nancy.
Yeah, did everyone have a chance to read this, or do I need to go
Yes.
through it? Okay, good. Any questions? Okay.
Just, could you clarify for me, I think Mark had told me that the drip irrigation was completed, or is that still in progress?
I saw them doing it over the last week, so I don't think it has yet been complete. It could be completed now, but it wasn't completed at the last meeting.
But we're
close. Yeah.
We're close, okay.
I think they ran out of parts.
Okay.
Used everything they had.
I'll find out Thursday.
Sounds familiar.
Well, this is a very interesting question because I had asked the GSCDD after researching that some of the, especially at forward in the front, some of those monuments that have the travertine can be stained. I did see some quotes come in, which they'll talk about on Thursday, but not all of them included staining. Some of them just included cleaning. So
I think you're
I gotta
talking
wait
about
till
two separate
Thursday.
things,
Okay.
though.
Water has spread.
The rust
Newly
staining.
painted gray and now looks brown.
Yeah.
Columns.
Oh, on the columns. Well, they were supposed to use some rust off on those, so I guess I'll hear about it Thursday.
Yeah.
I'll make sure I ask.
But you were talking about the travertine
Yeah.
stones in the front of the,
Yes.
as we were driving in.
Correct.
Okay. And so the thought was is that they could be stained so that they're more in the color palette? Or-
Yes, in fact, I did research to show that they could be stained because it was unclear if they could be.
Okay.
Once that was decided, then the GSCDD went out and got quotes, though some of the quotes are only for cleaning and sealing. Some of them are for staining, so it'll be interesting to hear what happens Thursday.
Okay. Well, thank you. That'll be interesting.
You're welcome.
All right, we'll go on to our pond subcommittee update. Douglas?
I'll just go abbreviation through this stuff. Doug Zander, Ponds Group, and the chair of the Ponds Group. Financials, I'll give you some detail next report. I believe we will be around $100,000 over budget, and I got a list of 268 as where that came from. Ed and I have already talked. Ed asked me if I had enough for the current year. Most of the things that caused us over were one-time things, like picking up the fountains with no budget. That was $38-some thousand that we have in the budget for the following year. We didn't have it this year. So that's financial. I'll go through more detail once we get more finalized numbers. The next ponds to be done from restoration are 43, which is a large one, 47 or 48. We'll either do one large or two small. We've asked Tetra Tech to do the specs to be able to do them, not to exceed 15K, task authorization to do that. So they're in the process of doing that. We will not do anything in wet season. If we can't get it done dry season, we won't do it. My gut feel says we might have to do two small instead of one large because of the new streamlined process that Bob has been working on for not going through a bid if it's 195 or less. I think the two small ponds both will be less than 195 right now. My gut feel says the large pond would be greater and need to be a formal process, which would take longer. So that's with the restoration. The one that we, yes. Yeah, but for
That's
no,
47.
not because he complained. I would have used a different word than complain, but. Joke? Joke, yeah. That pond is the first small pond after, okay? So his pond is in there, but not because he complained.
No, I know.
Okay, I just want to make that
I just
consistent.
don't know the numbers and
Yes.
you rattle off the numbers. and I-
47. Oh, it's etched in my brain. 47.
Okay.
Pond 36 restoration completed. There's a PCO that has been $10,998 and for the drainage between the homes. That I would have not paid for that. I'd have given the money for something else. I'll go through the reason. They knew the drainage was there, but when we did the formal bid, the drainage was not in the formal
Was
bid.
not called out.
And it was not called out in the formal bid. So they came back and asked for more money. They asked for money for the hurricane, and we told them no, because in the bid says we aren't responsible for hurricanes. I'd have given them money for hurricane, some to help them there, and not done the other. But at the end of the day, we paid $10,998 for them for a PCO.
Weren't there some issues on the golf course?
Oh, yeah. They ended up resolving them to the best of their ability. The golf course still, we got some problems with our good neighbors at the golf course. You'll see that we had an algae bloom, we killed all the fish, stuff. That was the golf course. But yes, it did cause problems on that one thing.
And we are not asking the vendor to warranty that portion of the pond because we already know there were problems there. So any issues in that area are the responsibility of the golf course, and the golf course is aware of that.
What recourse do we have for the golf course if they don't?
Violates our permit, so.
Yeah, I think we've been a little nice to them from a standpoint of not having silk fences or, around the golf course and stuff like that. Or they haven't did the right thing from a permit standpoint.
Historically,
Yes.
Yeah, they've been pretty
But
cooperative.
the last year we've had,
But new management.
right. All right. The adjustable weirs, I can't say enough about them. They were fabulous. Weir 38 is unbelievable because it's just one pond, but even the ones on the flowway, I think helped. It's also the hurricane didn't have much rain. That helped probably as much as anything, but the weirs worked perfect. I think the adjustable weirs, it was well worth the money spent on them. What else do I have here? We had two problem ponds, Pond 31. This is the one Bob went out with me at this pond. This is the thing where the people said the littorals were wall to wall across the pond. As you can see, it's not that way. There's a little bit of the spraying on the bait there in that slough from the dead, when you sprayed the littorals, the dead stuff floats for a while. But there's nothing, that pond actually looks pretty good. Next one, go up.
Where is 31? So
That's in, what's that? Tiberia.
And
The
golf
first,
course?
the first time, the first entrance,
Right.
right there on the left through that home.
Okay.
It's right there. It's a
Gotcha,
small,
gotcha.
it's our smallest pond.
Okay.
It's our smallest pond. Here's the golf course, algae bloom right here.
And this is from over fertilization.
Well, it's rain washed off. It's one of the fairways where they're doing that work on the fairway. And that's what occurred. All the fish in that pond died, and there was a few large algae blooms. Solitude stepped up, and in a week they had it all cleaned up, and it was gone.
And Joe can't say the fish ate the
Yeah,
littoral.
I don't think anything ate those fish.
first fish killed 15 years.
Yeah. All right, that's all I have, unless there's a question. I'll go to interconnect. Is that the next thing on there?
Real quick one. With the rainy season fundamentally being over, what happens with the weirs now? Are you raising them back up?
I think.
They've been back up.
They've been back
Yeah,
up?
we have to keep them up. We can't lower them without permission.
All right.
So they stay at 100% unless we get permission to lower them.
We have a little more flexibility with 38 because
It's internal.
It's an internal weir.
Right.
So we have flexibility with keeping that down or lowering it without permission.
Right.
Where the other two weirs, you have to have permission
We
to
have
do
to have
that.
a lot of permission from a lot of people.
Yeah.
But they've been pretty good.
Okay, this is, last year we inspected all the interconnect pipes. These are the pipes between the ponds that helps us do self-leveling. They really have not been cleaned.
What's in there?
It's silt. Silt and stuff like that is in there that builds up over time. I mean, most of them have not been touched since the community was, I think we did some, but not many of them. The inspection was done, and these are the ones that needed to be cleaned, where they went out there. We piggybacked on Gateways, did this last year, this project, the interconnect pipes, and we were able to get, and they went to bid, and the person, Extreme Divers, was the one that won that bid. And what we did was they gave us the same, it's based upon the size of the pipe. and the length of the pipe. And we got the same pricing that Gateway did on the bid process. So we did not have to go to bid on that because we got the same price of the bid that was just done. We sort of like piggybacked on that contract.
And Extreme is the one who inspected the pipes
Yeah,
as well.
and they did inspect the pipes, but they did not have to clean it. But since they were the ones that won the Gateway business with a formal bid process, we did that. That was 109, what's the exact, 109?
It's right here, 105, 431.
Right, 105. That is what it is. The Ponds Group approved that Friday.
You're looking at basically $30,000 over budget.
That one line item, yes. And Laura and I talked to Laura about that, whether or not we're going to have to move it from a different line item, okay? But it was because of the equipment that needed to be there. We looked at doing 100 or, let's just say 80 and then doing more later next year. But the equipment, it would be not financially the right thing to do.
The mobilization fees, it just didn't justify the difference in cost. So we talked about.
And you can't spread that cost out over 2 years.
It has to be done when it's performed.
Right.
Okay, yeah, you're okay. Yep.
So that's my first tuck in for the new year.
Okay.
Ed. I got to watch I tuck in too much. What's the next thing?
Do we need to move on this?
We
Yeah,
move on this.
we need approval from you so then I can take it to the board.
Okay, so we need a motion.
I'll move.
Okay, Tom
Second.
Shaner has moved.
I'll second.
Nancy has seconded. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. I'll make sure that goes to the board on the 7th.
Thank you.
And we can have your PO issued on the 8th.
Okay.
Could you make it any faster?
Sorry. What am I on? D.
The next one on there is the salt conservation area.
Doug, I have a question for you.
Yes,
What's wrong with the fountain behind the Brokey Center?
electrical with the circuitry. I mean, they came out again, all three were out.
Yeah.
They came out again and clipped that one on, and it ran for about 2 hours and clicked off. So I think they either have to rewire something or they have to change the GFI circuit to put a different circuit in there because it's kicking out.
So who's responsible for that?
The vendor is Superior Water Management, Andy Knott.
Is it us or PPC?
It's us.
It's us,
It's
yeah.
ours, right?
Yeah, it's ours. We picked that, that's one of the things we picked up from PPCA.
They might want to try changing
Yeah.
the breaker in.
There's a different, they have changed the breaker, but they haven't changed. There's a breaker that's less, I don't know what you, sensitive, the kicking out that they're looking at putting in there. They've changed the breaker. But no,
They
it,
only trip so many times.
Right. In fact, the one homeowner right across from there is so good at this, he goes over and resets the thing himself. He calls me every time. I mean, he's almost a member of our group because that's his fountain and he makes sure it's running all the time. And he's had a hard time recently because it's not been. It's the most visible fountain we have.
Yeah.
All right. Last thing on the agenda for me is the conservation area. This is an extenuation of the Solitude to the new year contract that went up, I believe, 5%, which was in the contract. This is to do all the conservation areas within Pelican. So this is the renewal, I will call it a renewal of that contract.
3%.
What?
It's 3,
Yeah.
yeah.
And this is just an annual, there's no way that we can get this into a 3-year rotation?
Well, it is a 3-year, but it's sort of like it renews each year with a possibility of increase by a certain amount,
Okay.
okay?
I have a question.
Yes.
My own edification, because where I came from, where I used to live, Swift Mud owned all the conservations,
Mhm.
and they took care of all this. So when I saw that we had to have a contract to do it in the conservation, it raised an eyebrow for me. So is that how it's always been done here?
Mhm.
Yes,
We
from-
own them.
It used to cost
We
us,
own them.
yeah, we own the.
We own them.
Huh.
It used to cost us double this. What Woods and Wetlands used to do it for us. We went to bid. It was one of the first bids that we went for that I can remember. and Solitude and Aquagenics was,
Yeah.
Was the first one.
Solitude was low bid, but we took Aquagenics, which was a little more, and Solitude. So 2 times a year, they do the inner sweep, remove invasive plants, and 2 times a year to do the exterior to do that.
Okay,
And usually every year, one of our conservation areas is randomly selected to have, I'll call it an audit, from Regional Southwest Water Management comes in and make sure we're doing a good job. And if you aren't, you can be fined.
so I have one follow-up question, thank you. So if there is a tree in the conservation area behind someone's home and the tree is leaning toward a home,
Right?
right? Again, where I came from, we had to contact Swift Mud and they had to approve the tree to be cut down and left in the conservation. Is it now that they would contact the GSCDD?
No. But final approval still comes from Regional Southwest Water Management that controls the conservation area. We can't cut anything down in there. It's not, we can't get it done, but we have to go get approval from them before they will allow us.
So the
to
ticket
remove
goes
it.
to the GSCDD
Yes.
and they handle the approval?
It has to
Thank
come
you.
through, it has to
Okay,
come through
very
the
good, thank
district
you.
and, we
Right,
request
but I mean
approval,
is the district can't approve to cut it down.
Right,
That's all I mean.
Right,
Okay,
right.
very good, thank you.
And it's only the part that's hanging out, not like the whole thing. So it's just
Correct.
the safety part.
Yeah, because we had some, I think it was with Irma that fell on, from the conservation areas and took out cages.
And they put it back into the conservation area. They cut it and then
Yep.
put it back in.
Right.
so.
Yeah. Thank you.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the contract renewal.
By Marty?
Question first, the recommendation, staff recommendation includes the draft of an RFP. Is that included in your motion, Marty?
Sure.
Okay, John Mary has seconded. Any more discussion? Call the vote. Todd?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
Thanks, Todd.
I was going to say, we're quiet over there. All right, good. Thank you, Doug. Always a good job that you end up doing. So there's a really sketchy person who wants to join our group.
Who is this Peggy Hall
I
person?
know, it's scary.
We have some discussion.
Thank you.
Serious discussion.
So I know that there was some confusion, because there's agenda items on all of the subcommittees and the committees, with the exception of the board, because theirs is tied to elections, that each fiscal year you need to redo your president and vice president. Doesn't matter when the person's term comes up, so seats will become open and people will say yes or no, I want to stay on or I want to leave, which is completely untethered to the election of the president and vice president of each of the committees. So
Bless you.
that's why I think you guys have both, you're supposed to, she doesn't have that on here. Okay, well, we'll fix that for next month. All right, so that's
So we'll
supposed to be
have
the
to-
first meeting of each fiscal year that you elect your president and vice president of each of the committees. So,
So are we electing? now?
no, you're just approving her to be on PPAC.
We're making a recommendation to the Board of
Right.
Supervisors.
Right.
To continue.
So I'll make a motion to recommend Peggy to the Board of Supervisors for 2-year renewal.
I'll second that.
By Marty and then seconded by Nancy. All in favor?
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed?
I'll mark you as abstained so you don't vote for
I'm
yourself.
abstaining. I'll pay you guys later. Okay, we're all good. All right.
The
Oops,
check's
went too
no
far.
good?
The check is no good. All right, Safety and Security Subcommittee, new member recommendation, Rich Glover. Like a good fit and has been recommended by the,
He's anxious to participate. He will have a lot to say.
Yeah, he's actually the president member of the street lighting team.
oh, excellent.
Publicly on
So I'll make a motion to recommend Rich Glover to the committee.
I will second that motion.
All right. Made by Marty, seconded by Tom. And any more discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
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 All right.
Unanimously accepted. Okay, Pelican Preserve.
Laura, will that complete that committee?
I believe that's the 7th member, yes. What did it say?
All subcommittees will be complete. All subcommittees will have 7.
Don't say that.
Somebody will resign. Wait, it curses.
Oh, 6. I'm sorry, 6. We're short one.
So one
yeah.
more
We
on
still
that
need
one?
one more. I couldn't remember if this was the one that took it to 6 or the one that took it to 7. So this one takes it to 6. So we still have one opening.
If
How
you
we
know of
start-
anyone?
No, how do we solicit for that? Just constant announcements over CA?
We do push out communications to Pelican and then through constant contact as well, but word of mouth is awesome. If you could think of somebody, ask them.
I would say that's probably how we get the majority of
Yeah,
people.
the application's on our website too, so if you send them to the gatewaydistrict.org and then just like, I want to, and it's like, be on a
And they don't-
committee or
they-
whatever.
Do they have to be full-time or can they be snowbirds?
That is up to you. There's not a requirement on our part. We have found that having them be snowbirds causes problems with the quorum. So it's completely up to the committees. If you, that's your decision. We do ask that question on the application if they're a full-time or part-time resident, but we don't require them to be, we require them to be a resident, so. That they own property. so.
Meaning just owning
Well,
property?
I think that's what the question is.
Meaning
what
owning
did it say?
property, because a resident is something,
It
in my
says-
opinion, is someone that this is their home, this is where they vote from.
Parks and
It's-
registered voter.
I think are you
Fines.
resident?
It
full-time,
asks you, are you a
part-time?
resident? I know that that was there and then it disappeared and then we put it back.
Yeah.
So,
But
because that
that's
was
a
causing
question,
some
it's not-
concern.
it's not
It
a
asks if they
requirement.
own property or not. No, it's not a requirement. It's just that they live, they
It's information
live here
for
at
us to
some point.
consider.
Yes,
Yeah, you don't want to get too many people who are snowbirds on it.
right.
Right.
That's why that's on there. So there's, yeah, we don't require it.
All right, let's move on to 8C, the
Oh, this is
Pelican
your-
Preserve Customer Care Data Review.
All right, you can see not much came in.
Now, just for the newer people, this was something that we requested when we went into the new structure of having the C-Click fix, not having an intermediary in the Pelican Preserve community. And so we were kind of curious to see what the numbers were as compared to what the volumes were being reported by both Castle and KW. And so that's the background on why we started this. And I feel like it's done its job. I don't know that I necessarily see value in continuing this, but you guys might.
I do have a comment. So recently, I submitted 2 tickets, both on sidewalks, and I didn't see them show up here. I'm not sure if everyone's aware, but there was a project that was done as a test bed in Prado because the drainage is so poor there from the grass to the street, and the sidewalks were flooding and becoming dangerous. So they did put in, they cut out a piece of grass on the small piece that's next to the street, and they put in pavers, and that seemed to have worked and was done in 2 spots. Now, since the weather systems have come through, some of the sidewalks, and I sent pictures, became about a ½ inch or maybe a little more muddy and very, very dangerous to people walking on these sidewalks. Since it has dried up and now it's just a thick layer of dry dirt. And I happened to get just a flat shovel, so I was able to clean a couple of them up. But I think this is something that needs to be revisited. I don't know what happened to this project. I think David Hamilton was working with maybe Bob on this, but I'm not 100% sure.
It's ongoing.
That would be something safety and security would take up, so.
Daniel, when he gets enough area,
Can you come up,
justify concrete.
you
He doesn't.
don't let people talk from the.
Yeah, well, I mean, there is definitely justification to revisit this.
That didn't.
Now, is that something that you would bring up at the committee on Thursday or whenever it is?
That's the landscaping one. This is
Oh,
safety
I
and
thought
security.
Safety and security, this is ongoing. Daniel gets a list, and when he has enough to justify the concrete work, they go out and do it.
And I did see your requests come through. I just don't remember when they were, but I did see the 2 come through.
Okay. and
They-
I
They've
thought-
actually got 3 different things. They could take the grass out, they could put pavers in,
Right.
and the most recent thing is they'll put in a concrete apron to funnel the,
But my understanding was that once it was proven out that it would be done at all grades.
everyone that's been reported, if there's no problem, they don't do it.
Okay,
But
so
if
now
there's a
2 more
problem,
are
then you do it.
reported.
Yeah, just got to put
Okay.
them on the list, they'll get done.
Is that on a residential or is that?
Residential.
No, that's actually in Prado residential. And
In front of a
Well, it's really not in front of a homeowner, it's on between,
Right,
It's on the side
there is a
of the
house,
sidewalk
and then
and
there's a
the-
sidewalk,
Yeah.
right? And then there's grass, and then there is the drain, right,
Right.
the grate.
are you talking the one on Livorno?
No, I'm talking two on Prado Drive. If there's another one, please put
Well,
in
the
a
one on
ticket.
Livorno is right behind Randy and Helen's, house, right across the street. from
Yep.
there. That's a big one, that's a big one.
Okay, we got to get a
So,
ticket on that.
yeah.
too.
Is it on
let's
a
do
district
that.
sidewalk or is that on district property or is that private?
Well, I'm not, yes, who owns what in Pelican Preserve, none of us know.
Sidewalk is
But this
GSCDD.
particular piece of sidewalk
Yep.
is actually between two properties.
Okay.
One's facing this way, the other's facing this way, so it's a corner. You come around the corner, this house ends, this house starts. So there's a piece of land that runs back to the pond. I'm not sure if that's, it's probably Commons, but is it Prado Commons, Pelican Commons, Gateway Commons?
Yeah,
Okay.
but where I'm talking about, Tom, just for clarity, is anywhere on the sidewalk where mud is coming up, right, and getting thick. There is a drain somewhere, a drain grate on the curbs with the GSCD does own, that it cannot get to.
Yeah.
So it just hits the grass and piles up on the sidewalk.
That's, yeah, this one's set a half inch, I go an inch on this spot.
Yeah, make sure you submit that.
Yeah, you
And
do
then-
that because it'll let you
and
put
then you'll
exactly
bring it
where
up
you
to me
are
then?
and pin it and that way we'll get it on.
To me, this gets into a great, every place I have ever lived, property owner responsible for everything from their sidewalk. If there's a problem with the sidewalk, it's the property owner's responsibility. And if they don't take care of it, then the city takes care of it and bills the
Right.
property owner, so.
Not
that's how- that's
not here,
every place
though.
I've ever lived.
Me
But
too.
not here for sure.
Yeah,
The GSCDD is responsible for the sidewalks.
the
And,
safety.
because I would like to,
Ours-
I would like
ours
to,
is on a residential lot, in front of a residential.
yes, but the sidewalks are owned by the GSCDD. The little strip of grass that's between the sidewalk and the curbs are also owned by the GSCDD.
So should my neighborhood quit mowing the grass between the sidewalk? and
No,
the
of
curb?
course not. You know, we do that out of courtesy.
But Nancy, you know what Ed is
So
saying
when I
is right.
replaced the sidewalk in front of my house, I should have been reimbursed?
Exactly.
What Ed is saying is classic city property. The house, the sidewalk in front of your home in the city is owned by the city. But you are responsible for shoveling in the snow, for keeping it clean, and if you don't, you can be fined, even though the city owns the property.
Well, what's really unfair about that, if I may say so, is I can go out, for example, and I have done this, and I can pressure wash my sidewalk, and the next rain, it's filthy again. Now, not as bad as this,
Right.
but it's filthy again.
I'm not taking it, I'm just explaining that's how it
All right.
works in most.
I can
move
tell
on.
you that
Yeah.
the tickets were
Let's move
received,
on.
so
Thank you.
I
We know
saw
that
them.
we've got some work
Yeah,
that we can
I
do
saw
there.
them.
Okay, so let's
Okay.
get back to this, the,
So
The
you would
data?
like, what is the consensus of the group?
yeah,
Do you-
anybody else feel that
We
there's
have
value? in-
basically 9 months worth of data, 8.5 months worth of data here.
And it's public books and ponds. something like
I mean,
that.
and if at any time you'd like
I
to
don't
see
need
it
to see it
again,
again.
we can pull
I
it.
don't think we're capturing all the requests that come through in
I
this
don't
system.
either.
That's because we have
You know,
3
We have
reporting
3
systems.
different systems.
I
that-
understand that.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying is that report to all that.
And that's what I said to
helpful.
Laura
Right.
last time, if it was possible, and knowing it's a nightmare to capture, to convert the call-ins onto this system, that's just not practical from a staff standpoint, but it would give you better data.
Well, like obviously the landscape's not there because that's reported right to Ameriscape, so that's why there's nothing on it.
But the whole thing is whether or not this is of value, and I'm not so sure that it
I
is.
don't think it is.
I don't think
Right.
it is either.
Randy, well, thank you.
I think we
Tell
have
him-
to,
tell him
we
you're
have to
welcome.
depend on staff to bring us.
But we do appreciate, it gave me comfort knowing that our numbers were not just ballooning when we went away from our
Sure.
on-site
I think
contact.
that shows that your subcommittees are handling a lot of
I think
things, so
that's a
that their
very-
people are bringing it right to them and they're taking care of it.
Okay, very good.
Or they're letting staff know that way and it's not coming through this way, so.
All right, so then let's move on to 8D, which is the 2013 bond series payoff and the update.
All right, the bonds will be paid off November 1st. I confirmed with the bank that they received the $955,450.39. They confirmed on Friday that they have that money, so it's sitting there. Everything is where it needs to be to make that payoff on November 1st, so we are on par. So as of November 1st, You will no longer have your 2013 bonds.
So that came out, that 900,000 came out of capital reserve.
Correct.
Any questions on that?
So that's all that came out of there, our capital was 955 and we paid off $1.5 million.
Correct. Because you had money sitting in, that we had already collected for bond payments, as well as there was some money sitting at the trustee for when the bonds were originally issued
Right.
for work that had not been completed, so that there was about 300,000 in each
So
one.
what's this, as the 25 tax bills go out,
Yep,
those people that are paying for the bond will be billed for that, correct?
yeah,
Where will that ultimately show?
that'll
up?
go into the bond fund, and then we'll have to decide what to do with it. I mean, that, there'll be a discussion for further
Okay,
down
so
the
we'll
road,
have
but
a-
it'll still be accounted for
Since
separately,
we use
so.
capital reserve.
That would be my suggestion, was be that you put it back into capital reserves, but we won't do that until the end of the fiscal year, because the payments come in through the year.
But in 2026, the tax will all go down.
Yeah, no, but it just, next year we're having money come in, I just want to know where it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah, they won't have that
That was a good
extra
question.
debt service assessment for fiscal '26.
All right, well,
But
that's.
November 1st, our bond, our
That bond is done.
13 bond is paid off.
Yes,
Right. And the
correct.
23
And I
is
said I
still in
confirmed they
process.
have all of the funds as of Friday, so they're just, everything is ready to go.
Yep, excellent. Thank you for doing that, Laura. We
Can
really-
I
You're
ask a
welcome. That was
dumb
actually pretty
question, just
easy.
Because I know there are people out there.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm one of the, I'm not, but one of these houses who has been paying the bond.
Okay.
Now that I know the bond's paid off, do I have an opportunity to call and say on my tax bill, I don't want to pay that? I know it's a dumb question, but I want to know in case somebody would ever do it.
I don't think so, because it's tied to your property. So
Okay.
if you don't pay it, then we can lien you. So.
I mean, you're billing me for something that I don't owe anymore.
Aren't the assessment,
But we owed it on the date the bill came.
I know.
So we
I know.
prepaid, we
Okay.
basically prepaid it and you're reimbursing
All right.
it, is what's happening.
As long as we have,
Yeah.
An answer.
and it always gets confused, but taxes are based on prior year payment
Right,
in
right.
arrears. So
Yeah.
all right,
Even though this is
Just wanna know
not ad
should it
valorem
come
for
up.
the next-
Well, the ad valorem is, yeah, it's
Yeah,
confusing. But anyway, we basically prepaid the amount that got assessed for the bonds. So you're paying you're paying back into the fund for what they fronted to pay it off.
All right, moving on. We'll go to 8E, the Tetra Tech tax authorization fiscal year 2025-2.
So historically, you have had an open general task authorization with Tetra Tech for miscellaneous things that come up throughout the year for $5,000. So this is just requesting permission to continue that.
And is that sufficient? Did that cover everything we had last year?
We've changed the task authorizations for the project specific to be charged against whatever that particular task authorization is for. So this would just be like general one-off things that you would ask for
That
them
aren't
to do that aren't tied
project-related.
to something specific. Correct. And I don't think you guys have ever hit the $5,000 because it usually ends up going to a project, but we put it out there just in case. Yeah, and then if you don't spend it, it just goes into your reserves, so.
This is Marty. I make a motion to approve the task authorization for Tetra Tech not in an amount not to exceed $5,000.
I second it.
Okay, Marty and Nancy. Any other discussion? All vote. Aye?
Aye.
All
Aye.
All right, thank you.
And moving on to 8F, recommendation of award for the Benito Speed Hump project. Woo-hoo. All stand?
Have a little celebration after.
So this is like last call, right? So it's like, do we really want to spend all this money?
thank you.
Because I don't think anybody in our development wants this.
I don't either. I think we are creating a nightmare. I have thought so from day one. When they first put down those rumble strips.
But we did it at the behest of,
I know. I'm not arguing that, Peggy.
okay,
Benito.
Benito asked to have some speed calming device put in, and that was,
Should we hand Benito this proposal and say, are you willing to pay? It's gonna be
Why can't we leave things the way they are?
even
'Cause they don't
Benito
work.
doesn't like the.
So it's either the way they are or we just remove them.
I don't think we can remove it. Yeah.
City traffic engineering has to approve all the changes. require veto community neighborhood approval before the resident. And so they won't approve the removal. Approve the speed hump rather than. They won't put in stops, city won't allow stop signs. Doesn't meet the requirement for stop sign.
So this is Marty, I have a question.
Discussion for years.
How much have we already spent on this?
I would have to go back and look. I don't remember what we spent for the engineering. I was gonna say 15 to 20, just trying to guess, yeah. I can't remember for sure.
So Benito approved the original rumble strip, did they
It was
not?
before my time, so I
Yeah.
don't.
Before, I think, all of our time.
What's the total on this street?
It's right here.
23,
Right here.
23, and then 5 plus, so roughly 30,000.
29,000.
Another issue is they put up that mirror there too, so that people could see, when
Right.
see this kind of blown over.
Oh, that's
So we got an
We
issue,
got-
what do
we
we
got
do with that
record.
mirror? So, yeah,
$35,025.
And also, the speed hump will not be able to be
Driven around.
bypassed.
Yes.
Right, well, that's the main thing, it'll go all the way across. I just worry, having gone through golf carts going over the speed hump when they were doing that pond, and the number of carts that were bottoming out, even though this is longer, I realize, it's not as quick up and down. I
Oh,
just,
but it'll be significant if they hit that speed bump at
Yeah,
that speed.
yeah. I don't know how to do this, trying to wear this hat, not the PPCA hat. But if there is a way to get a PPCA endorsement comment to the PPAC, I just believe there's going to be a lot of resident pushback. It's, for the people of Benito, it's a safety factor.
So am I hearing that people would like us to go back to Benito and just ask if we should pull everything out?
No,
I mean,
I'm
is
not
that
even-
what I'm hearing?
I'm not asking to pull it out. I just agree it doesn't work because everybody goes out and around it. It's almost more dangerous the way it is now.
That's my thought, yeah.
I'm just concerned that there's going to be a lot of upset people when that speed bump goes in there. If it needs to be there, it needs to be there, but,
It's really only going to slow down the golf carts and the very low riding cars. I mean, I've seen these speed bumps that we're talking about in West Chase in Florida, and I never had to slow down in my
you
car,
ever drive
so,
behind an 80-year-old man going over a speed bump?
no,
They'll be going 5 miles an hour over those speed bumps.
yeah, I'm just saying,
It'll slow the cars down more than
Yeah.
the bumps do.
yeah, they don't slow them down at
The
all.
bumps we got now don't slow a car down.
Just the golf carts.
They
And
just
this
make
is
noise. Yeah, they
Yeah.
just make noise.
And the golf carts have all figured out how to either go out, cars go out,
Yeah,
golf carts
and that's
mostly
more
go up.
dangerous, because
Yes.
somebody's either gonna tip or they're gonna get hit.
Yes.
Yeah,
So, yeah,
that's my main concern, is that what we've got now isn't
correct.
working. So,
My concern is spending the $23,000,
It's 35.
35.
So
Thank
if
you,
I'm
Marty.
gonna, I'd like to motion to table this.
okay,
Until there's been discussion, and I will take discussion to the PPCA. Bring it back.
I would like it to go to the,
Benito.
no, I would like it to go to safety and security and have them work with Benito to see if they are willing to retract their request.
So kick it back to safety and security?
Yes. I mean, I appreciate PPAC or PPCA being able to engage in that manner, and we may still be coming back to that, but I believe it's something that we should be able to handle.
Well, I just want to table for now.
Sure.
Okay,
Whatever.
so
I'll motion to
we
table.
have a motion to table
Second.
with a second by Marty. Any discussion? Call the vote. Oh, yes, Bob, come up, please.
Bob Geppert from Brenner. Let me tell you, first of all, I'm not in favor of this, but, and that's the big but, Safety and Security has been working on this for over 2 years, and it has gone so many iterations and so many different ways of looking at it. And if you, I mean, this is a pretty late date to be tabling it, because everybody's known about it for a long, long time. But you're going to disenfranchise them, I think, by tabling it.
Are you saying disenfranchise the safety and security?
Yeah.
of the
Yes, this came recommended from them. They've
They have
researched all the
struggled with
options.
this unbelievably. Probably got hundreds of hours on it. So
Now, is that the people that are on the committee now? Because it's been.
the only one that's different, there's new people, but Dean Groves did a yeoman's job on this in
Before he
researching
left,
the law.
I think part of the thing was that we realized that the current rumble strips weren't working.
Right.
And went back and tried to work with the city, they got the.
And what are the alternatives available?
Look at what alternatives and the speed table, speed hump, these impact.
Whatever you get's going to be ugly. This is
Right.
This is
the best looking
best
ugly
look
choice.
that would
It's going to be yellow.
replace
But it is, are you the
He's
liaison?
liaison.
So would, Bill, they would be upset if we went back and said, look, we want to ask the community.
I don't know, I mean, they went out and showed the design of one in Benito, because city traffic engineer required the approval. They had like 80% of the residents sign. Fortunately, from the city standpoint, Benito is the only residence impacted, not.
And yet it impacts everybody in the community.
Right.
Yeah,
And
that's
Benita's
my
gonna be
only
in favor. Benita's
concern,
gonna be in favor.
is they have devoted so much time and effort into it. And I just would caution you for,
Right. No, I hear you, Bob. That's why I don't want to shoot it down. I want it to table. Just to,
Okay.
maybe I need a better understanding and,
because
Well,
people used to
we
go
all
up on
know
the
it's-
grass and on the sidewalk.
They still
to
do
avoid
we
it.
all
all
know
around in
this
the
has been
road.
coming. I guarantee you 90% of that community does not know, and it's gonna have problems when it's there. So we either need to do a good job of making sure there's communications up front so they expect it, like the diversion diamond. But that's all. I'm not trying to kill this. I just would like to table it for the motion, for the moment.
I'd like to withdraw my second for tabling the motion.
May I ask another question, Laura? What is our timeline on all of these quotes? They've got to have expiration.
Normally they're 30 to 60 days. I didn't look at what these particular ones were, so it is time sensitive from that as well. I mean, after 2 years, we're like this close, and you guys are like, nope. So
Right.
I agree with Bob. Safety and security, they have been working on this for probably at least 2 years, probably since their inception. They've been working on this. This got tossed to them. It had started at PPAC, if I remember right. You guys
Right.
talked about it
It's been
first.
going on for a
And then
while.
it went to them, and they have done a lot of work on this. And I'm guessing that they're pretty much under the assumption that you guys were gonna approve
And the
it.
HOA has surveyed the residents in that neighborhood twice.
All right, I'll withdraw.
Motion has been withdrawn.
So question, when would this project begin?
We're just waiting for you to approve it. We need to get the permits would have to get issued. I would assume we would tell everybody it's a go, and then however long it would take to get the permits and stuff. So I would say within, well, Daniel can, Daniel, Nathan, whoever will get with, yeah.
Well, one
That's
of the
pretty
things is to make
reasonable.
sure that we're getting communications out to the community.
Oh, yeah, Randy will do that. He'll make sure he puts stuff together to get it out there. We always do like what's going on, like here's the project's coming up, and we give some information about the project. Whether or not you guys actually see it, I don't know,
Well,
but
I
we do
wanna-
put it out there, and we do send it
I'm talking
over,
about us
so.
getting it out to
Right,
our
right.
community.
But I say we send it over to KW to send out to the community, but that doesn't always happen, so please be sure that you,
Yes.
Yeah.
that you
We'll
share
follow
it
up on that.
when it comes to you.
I assume that the traffic engineers, and it's been going on for so long, that somebody's taken a look at the intersection versus just the speed bumps, right?
Absolutely.
Yes.
All that's been done.
It's
and
been, it's
there's
been
no
a
way
very
to-
extensive.
I mean,
yeah.
that'd be the best way to do it if in fact
Put a
you could
yield
figure out
sign or
something.
All the
Yeah,
different
the road
angles
doesn't meet
from
the requirements for
monument.
Yeah.
signage. So you'd have to
Yeah.
redo the road and everything
Close
too,
the road,
so.
run it out the backside over to Pelican Reserve Boulevard.
Yeah, over a
Let
flyover.
them, let them
Yeah.
go over the bridge to
Over
the
the bridge,
Brockton.
Okay.
that's right.
So I guess there's
Let's bring it
2
back together.
actions, or there's two recommendations
All
on
right,
here. There's the
so
one
are
to.
we, or do we have a motion then to approve?
Well, I think Laura's trying to
Well, I said there's
clarify.
there's the approve, which is to parse it out, to have the 3 different vendors work on it, which was that's our recommendation is to do, but you do have an alternate to just award it all to one, which is a little bit less expensive, but we do know that, like Lycans does all of your signs, so they would be the same kind of signs that you have, and I don't know if
We
you
wouldn't have
told
to-
her that you would get that, so that's why staff's recommendation is to split it and have each one do their own part.
Is Lycan's being timely now?
They're
then?
being better, yes.
Okay.
We're actually, Mark has been working on, Mark Rothenberger's been working on trying to find places that we can do our own signs.
Oh,
So,
okay.
and then they'll be very timely because we
Yeah.
don't have to wait.
Yeah, for sure. Okay.
I still think that somebody ought to take another run at the residents in there. That's my personal feeling. I mean, I hate to go out there and spend $30-some thousand to put a rumble strip in that we're gonna get all sorts of heat on. And it may not even, be a great benefit to the people that live there. And I'm not so sure somebody shouldn't take another run at those folks.
I think you're a damned if you do, damned if you don't, because people are complaining about the rumble strips, and if you put the hump in, people are gonna complain about that too, so.
I think you're talking more about the need of people, find out
Yes.
if they really want
Just-
this.
Yes,
Well, can they actually pull back though? That's the question I have is if they say, no, we don't need it anymore, is that sufficient for the city engineers to just pull the rumble strips?
I
I
don't,
didn't think so.
I don't know. I would have to check, I
Pull
don't
it
know.
on that?
That
Hey,
would be-
Laura, that would have to be rescoped. We would have to change the
That's what I
engineering
was
drawing.
just gonna say, we'd have to, I thank you, I was just gonna say that. Yep, we would have to go back to the city with a new, we'd have to have them come and look, and it would be like a whole nother project, which would delay it even further, so. I don't
Well,
know.
so FTE would have to amend the permit and have to reroute it after they redid the drawings.
And assuming that we get approval from the community and the city,
Right.
All
so,
right, so I'm going to hold my nose and make a motion to approve the staff recommendation.
I second.
Okay. Made by Marty, seconded by John. Is that right? Okay. All the vote. Let's do it by name. Nancy?
This is Nancy, I'm gonna abstain.
you can't,
You can't abstain.
Why
it doesn't
not?
affect you directly, you can't
Well,
abstain.
it does.
It doesn't,
I know, I've tried it before.
yeah, you can't, you have to vote.
Yes.
Marty?
Aye.
no,
Alan, no. Peggy? I'm gonna say no. Tom?
Yes.
All right, it
4 to
carries
3.
4-3.
Tough one, guys. I know it. Okay, so that one is now on the dockets. Then we're moving down to the budget use projected. Don't we have something on bike lanes too?
It's coming.
Okay, all right. All right, here, we've got Ed's financials that were,
I got
Ed,
it.
you have.
It's
two for Laura.
numbers, he can't read it.
Thank you.
Well, numbers, that's-
That's right, I wasn't sure.
All right,
I will just caveat that all these numbers are my numbers and they're based on the September financial.
And I don't necessarily agree with this, so
Right.
yes.
And I know they're making adjustments, but just trying to get a picture of where we're at going into next year, because when we went through the budget, we said we were going to use $344,265 of funds.
Unspent.
200, from pond and landscape to fund our budget for next year. And so as I look at it, there are, start with the red items, the balance sheet is from financial packet that was in the board. And to start off with, I'm not sure why they increased the capital reserves 200,000. Last year in June, we made a budget adjustment to transfer 200,000 that we were going to add to capital reserves to transfer that to safety and security to fund the capital roads project. So there was going to be no increase in capital reserves, but they did a 200,000. So I think that needs to be reversed.
Who's they?
Huh?
Who is they?
There was a $200,000 allotment for fiscal '24 into the capital reserve, so because that was specifically slated in your budget, that happens automatically at the end of the year, so that's why that went in, so.
company is,
Infomark.
Infomark is their
There are accountants.
contract accountant.
They actually do the journal entries.
But that was not an arbitrary thing, that's all.
No, that's what was in the budget.
Well, it was in the approved budget, but then we did a budget amendment in June, which should have captured that. Ponds, did the $100,000 transfer earlier. That 100,000 was added to the ponds budget to pay. Number 4, subtraction has never occurred on parks, ponds, there, so that 100,000 to be subtracted, and then that is still over 104,000. Their report didn't do that, it was for 204,000. So that 300,000 needs to be subtracted from those funds back into our unassigned.
So you're saying take 100,000 away from ponds?
Yeah, because from their reserves, because we added back in March, said transfer 100,000 from ponds to reserve to their ponds budget. They increased budget by $100,000, but they didn't subtract it from ponds reserve.
Yeah, Sonia said she was going to do it at the end of the year, so you should, it didn't happen there yet, but yeah.
Transfer. Anyway.
Yeah, I didn't request it until September. So.
When you look at, based on the end of September financials, underspent our budget for 16,000. Landscape, underspent theirs 288,000. Doug overspent his on 4, and safety and security underspent theirs. And then there was 124 that was in some of the administrative, and we also had increased revenues from interest and stuff. So the net of that is
still due in payables that would bring in.
Well, that's where I think.
Yeah, I'm still
Laura's
posting.
made a lot of
Yeah, I'm
these
still
numbers are-
posting.
Until Laura's made her entries.
Yeah, I'll have a better idea by, it'll be pretty close by your November meeting.
This number includes liabilities that were identified in their report.
So any unidentified might impact.
So there's going to be some
Right.
small adjustments.
Yeah, your fund balance surplus is considerably larger than what I got from Infomark. They're saying it's about 290. So.
Well, this is right out of their end of September.
So you have another 125, give or take, which has been expended, it's not reflected.
That's probably where the big chunk of it is, yeah. I don't remember. It's, everything is a blur.
What you're
There's,
saying that, I mean, in his report, he said there was, I was going through this with Chelsea, he was reporting a carry forward. The only place I could come up with his carry forward number was, it was the increase in the fund balance from last year to this year, which is not necessarily carry forward. This is looking at it as of the end. I can't imagine that there's that much. It isn't, it's hit, that isn't accounted for.
It should be
Accounts
stragglers,
payable.
but it shouldn't be big ones. You would
Yeah,
know about them.
So, anyway.
so you're,
So if this, whatever that is, it's not gonna change that much. All through the rest of this. So then you end up with the projected balances of those, which sometime in the future, when they actually do the audit, we can screw these numbers up a little bit. All over transactions during the few weeks too, and get final. And this is kind of a projected balance.
we won't, just clarify, it will be preliminary until they complete the audit, which will be at the end of March. So,
Yes.
yep. Just want to make sure.
That's why I've actually got all those footnotes on there and asterisks and stuff. But then when we went through the budget, we said we were going to claw back some of the reserves, $200,000 $194,265 from landscape. Character, 50,000 from you to 3. Since Doug is overspending his, you take his 100 and if those numbers hold, but he will only have 2,000. So I'm saying, hey, at this point, let's not take the 50 from Doug. Let's just use our unassigned reserves, unspent budget.
So why don't we take it from landscape? We've got the big surplus.
Right now, we could, but they won't have any more. Right now, they only have the 294,265. They won't have any more than that until they go through the audit. So it'll be 6-8 months from now. Right now, you could claw back the 294,265.
Isn't
And
it
we're
also,
knowing that they will have 288 more in 6 months. So,
and do we need to do the clawback at this point, or can we let this float and see where we end up?
My recommendation for ease of record keeping, and it's also what's in the agenda item, is to wait until we have a better feel of where we're at, so we're not putting it in, taking it out, and putting it in, taking it out, putting it in, taking it out.
and you can do that. My problem is we already got enough of these things that I don't want things to get lost. And right now, this 100,000 funds transfer from back in March is still sitting out there and hasn't occurred.
But you said you only put that in September, correct?
It should have been done, yeah, I did talk to Sonia about that in September, so I will check with her on that. I have a note.
Anyway, so then the bottom sheet is my calculation. Basically, to look at if they didn't do the 200 and 100, we don't are currently now our fund surplus balance surplus is about $200,000. That's kind of our surplus, and if we add the 300 from the transactions, 550. We do our surpluses and end of September were like 970. We do those clawbacks now.
That 970 is before the clawback. After the
clawbacks, we would have a surplus. We look at the budget. This is next year's budget down below. There it is. So then the next page is we also have, it's not only the 344 that we said at the budget time to go forward, there was the misallocation error that was captured that reduced the commercial assessments, and we didn't increase the GSED board basically approved staff's recommendation, and I think taking it as concurrence that we would just make up the difference rather than increasing the residential allocation. We would just make it up out of our reserve. So that's another $200,000 that we have to make up out of our. So if you look at where we were before, if you didn't make those those clawbacks and those adjustments, and we're getting down to almost nothing in our funds surplus.
Just to be clear, he's not checking reserves. He's talking purely the unspent carryover. Go ahead.
So showing that if you do all that clawback and you take the 294 from landscaping, all of those transactions occur on unassigned balance surplus, all of is about 425,000.
So I'm clear. In other words, that is the net difference between what our income was for last year and what we spent. That would be.
No, some of this carries forward from previous year.
But in terms of the financial statement, it's the net result at the end of the year. So we have another $426,000 to put into our unassigned capital fund.
Well, that's,
If
that's what
you're
it-
not-
that's what it is as of October, if all those
Right.
transactions.
If all that
were-
came out that way, you would have $426,000 to put into your unassigned capital reserves,
Or just leave it in the,
operating and carry
Operating
over for
carryover,
operations.
right.
Okay, just for clarification.
If you don't designate a place for it, it goes into unassigned, which means you can use it for whatever you'd like.
Or not spending.
Right.
Okay,
and it
use
just sits
everything in
there.
capital.
And the.
Capital can only be used for capital.
And the reason I go through.
Unassigned can
this
be
is
used for
every
capital,
time
whatever.
They get talking about those stuff, it's, oh, you guys have also lots of money, lots of money. It's never really quantified, and what I try to do with this, quantify it at given points in time, just what do we actually have, because the financial statements are kind of misleading, because what it has is, as unassigned, includes the remaining budget. So I try to go through and to see just what is our fund balance, because if these journals come through and Hans all of a sudden doesn't have, $1,000, it's anything that they spend above that is out of our fund surplus.
We're not out of
So
capital.
we can wait and let these transactions, but I hope some of these can get cleaned up as quick as possible. I don't know if we need to make a motion, just take the 200,000 that got out.
I have a note to fix that already. Same with the 100.
I just have a question. If we are operating at basically a surplus through the year of around $400,000, it seems like this is your number. Shouldn't we look at not making a recommendation for an increase?
But this past year, our surplus was 416,000. Unaudited,
Right.
As of temporary numbers. When we went through the budget, we reduced landscaping $100,000. So that's 100,000 off of that 116. We also took 50 or 60 thousand, even more of that out of the admin, and we reduced I think it was about 100,000 we took out of that, 60,000 for
the KW contact.
and we reduced 40,000 out of engineering fees. So we reduced the admin's about 100,000. So
We also
You
covered a cost that was a non-recurring cost, that $188,000 journal entry or whatever that was.
So,
And you took
at this-
money out
at
of
this
safety
point,
and
the
security's
is
budget,
what it is,
too.
and assessments are what it is. But we're getting them down to where we don't have that much surplus room in the budgets like we have the last couple of years. So just with the adjustments we made, we knocked off that surplus in half.
So I'm going to go back to something Laura said. So under that reserve capital,
Mm-hmm.
we're short in ponds, and improvements need to be made in.
The lake bank improvements are capital. You could take it out of there. Yep. So capital reserves is strictly for capital projects, like some of your street projects. Those
Right.
would be considered capital as
But
well.
there are areas that we're.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I just want to also point out that Ed had said that you guys are digging into there. That was by design by this group the last 2 years, that you decided that keeping the assessments low was more important, which is why those funds are, you don't have as much in your slush funds, your reserves, as you had the years prior to the last two. So that was by design. It wasn't like, it was intentional. It wasn't an accident or an oversight.
It's not our money.
Ed, thanks for your hard work on this.
Oh, yeah, he's invaluable.
Yeah.
Don't make him invaluable. It goes.
Well, I'm gonna appreciative.
Yeah.
How's that?
Okay, any other questions or?
I
Oh,
just-
Bob, yes.
Couple of 10,000-foot overviews. When we set up the landscape budget, we took whatever Castle had. At the end of the first year, we underspent it 270,000 something. We did not change the budget for the next year, which you would reasonably conclude in that next year, you're going to have another 270 surplus. We took 100 of it to give it to ponds because they were under budget, but we still got the 170. Safety and security is going to be much lower. This is the first year that it operated. And the new contract, I don't know what the total numbers are yet, but it's going to be a reduction in price. I think you're in very good shape financially. Ed and I have a different view of this. He likes all the marbles in a row. I like to look at the big picture, but I wouldn't want you to leave with the impression that we're in trouble, because I don't think we are at all, and nor does he. And to Laura's point of putting it in and out, I tried that a couple of years ago. It was an awful lot of work for very little gain. If we true up at the end of the year, he'll be very comfortable with where you are.
It also gives Doug some flexibility, like if he underspends on something, his overall budget, if his little pool of money, he doesn't exceed it, then we don't need to make the transfer because he had enough there to cover everything. So.
You know, and we were spending $400,000 a year for downspouts for a number of years. We don't do that anymore. So now we've shifted that into pond bank repairs, bank replacement and repairs. So I think you're in very good shape financially. Thank you.
The only other, I just think it's good that with you where we're at, there's a lot of things, especially this year, we're trying to find some of it. And as we look towards the budget next year, this whole assessment methodology rework is going to be important for everybody to get all the groups to really look at what their budgets need to be line item. Because certain things may be allocated differently.
It's all going to go into the 001 budget.
We don't know that yet. We won't know until the assessment methodology is done.
And you just take landscaping, for example. General landscaping, the lawn mowing basically takes care of things outside the fence, along the tree line, and along the boulevards. Monuments are pretty much inside the fence. So if there's different allocations for things that are inside versus, or the commercial might have to pay for versus non-commercial, I think it's going to be important to really try to estimate those individual items more closely than we have in the past. It's kind of been, well, as long as you're pot, you can move things around. It's going to affect the allocations of what goes to commercial versus non-commercial.
I think that's a wait and see.
Yeah, I think we should have a pretty good, well, I shouldn't say pretty good. We'll have a much better idea of where that's going to land by January when we have the preliminary report from Ross. I encourage you all to at least follow up after the fact on the YouTube videos from the workshops for every single board meeting between now and then, because every single board meeting between now and then from 2 to 3, we have a workshop breaking out different areas of that assessment methodology. So we'll be in here for an hour talking about that each time. I'm happy to give updates on what happens. That is my main focus for this next fiscal year, is to get that assessment methodology completed and implemented. So I'm not doing the work. I mean, that's Russ. We're paying him to do it, but I'm there every step of the way, so I completely understand how everything works, how it's all being allocated, and I'll be able to answer questions.
And there is a second assessment being done?
There is not a second assessment, it's a peer review. The board voted to do a peer review. So there is a second set of eyes that's not in Russ's.
That's not my understanding sitting in that meeting.
That's not what was said in the meeting.
That is not my understanding at all. It was contentious, but it was that you would get a second assessment methodology developed so you can compare. Not peer review.
No,
That is
no.
Ed Tinkle's voice speaking, not yours.
What was approved was the second person to look it over and be involved in the process.
I don't think 2 members
so.
of that board of supervisors would agree with that. So I will leave it to the board of supervisors members to hammer that out, but that is not what I thought I heard. I'm just an observer.
That's why we went and got a second person.
Above
This
our
is
pay
a-
grade on that one,
You're gonna have
guys,
to-
so we'll
Move on.
move
Yep,
on.
Yep, yep.
I did have one other thing that I wanted to make sure you guys, with the movement for the new methodology and everything, I have been very concerned about what's going to happen with our reserves, that I do not want our reserves to be swept from 02 reserves into 01 reserves.
That won't happen.
And I know
Yep.
you've said it. I've now got Chelsea saying it.
Yep.
And it is a question that we have with the attorney as well, because we want to make sure that, you know, those monies that were paid by
It's-
our,
It's Pelican taxpayer dollars.
Right,
Right,
that were
we wanna
paid
make
in
sure
to
that that
maintain the
goes-
things in Pelican.
and Chelsea was mentioning that, what would happen is that you'd have two ways of dealing with it. Either you could spend it down and use it solely for Pelican, or it would go back as a credit on the taxes for the current homeowners,
Property owners.
property owners, thank you, property owners within Pelican. Their non-ad valorem taxes would have a credit.
They would get a credit on their next year's taxes.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's a very important thing in my mind
Mhm.
that we need to understand. Are we going to be looking at this next year of finding the key projects that we could fund and to get the reserves down? Or are we going to have a credit?
And the other thing, I mean, what may come out of this, I mean, I don't know, and nothing may change. And then, you know, if you guys still want to do things, it would still go into your Pelican fund to be spent in Pelican. That is TBD at this point. There's nothing,
I don't support spending money just for the sake of spending money.
Well, no, but on priorities for that we know we would have to spend money on regardless.
My God, that got a smile out of Marty.
Okay.
First one all meeting.
I just,
I think
if
we
you
need a
guys have
tunnel.
other questions that would come up from this activity that's going on right now, make sure you're letting me, well.
Well, let me know, because,
Let
yeah,
Laura
because
know.
I'm dealing right with Russ, and then
Yeah.
we're accumulating questions, things that need to be answered, concerns between Chelsea and I and Russ, we're accumulating all those, so if there's anything that you are unsure of, at least whatever I can answer at this point, or that we can have work through in those workshops, we'll definitely address them.
Okay, thank you. Carol?
Yes. Now that you're going to be paying down the 2013 bond, I was wondering if you would put on your next agenda an item to discuss the two properties at Tree Line and Colonial, and to see if you want to declare them surplus or not and put them on the market. And I think that's an agenda item that should come from your committee.
Thank you.
It would come from us as a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors, is that correct?
Yes.
I'm sorry?
I said it would come from us as a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors.
Correct.
That final to say.
Just like you did with the bond
It
payoff.
just,
Who would buy
Yes.
those?
You might be surprised.
an investment person might buy them.
Mhm.
Rent would all go up and Winn-Dixie would be gone and Publix would move in.
Well, who knows? I don't know who might be even interested or whatever, but now that the bonds are paid off, this would be an opportunity to declare them surplus and put them on the market and see if anything happens, I guess.
Who does manage those, by the way? Laura, who manages those
Their
properties?
district, you mean the
And
monuments?
Are you billing them for rent? Is that coming out of the district? You bill for rent?
The monuments?
No, are you talking about the monuments or the?
The monuments.
We
Oh,
have
I'm
two
sorry.
half
I'm
acre.
sorry.
There's-
Yeah, where
I'm
the
in-
two
I'm
Pelican
in the-
Preserve things
roped
are.
into the
Where the
Commercial.
initial,
We're not
that was the
selling
initial
Winn-Dixie.
entrance into Pelican Preserve,
Gotcha.
was off of Colonial and
And
Tree
Tree
Line
Line,
there.
right.
Tree
City
Line
would
didn't
buy it
go
so they
through.
could
Tree
explain
Line
their
didn't,
Right?
stopped at the fire department.
true.
Okay.
So,
So Laura,
Anyway.
you'll get that on our next,
If that's what you wish, I can take it from Carol,
yes,
so.
I would like you to add that to our agenda. Thank you, Carol.
You know, we're dealing with an issue that's gonna affect the community too, and I know that we're talking about district assets here, but those two monuments still has a meaning to the people in Pelican Preserve. And so I think we need to take that into consideration. We may be making some decisions that are not real popular either.
Well, what I'll take away from if it's okay, is to research what it would take to declare them surplus and to to sell them. We won't take any action on it, just like, okay, if you decide that's what you want to do, how do we do it? The same as how we started out with the bonds, if we want to do that.
And we could certainly
and
come
maybe,
before-
Tom, maybe you could take it to the community association and just have it as a discussion item and get their feedback.
At this point, all Carol has asked, and put it on the agenda for
Yeah.
discussion, not to
Yeah.
necessarily take action.
Yep, I'll put it down for staff to do some research to see what it would
And
take.
we could talk about it at the president's council too.
Yeah, that'd be a good spot.
think we're on 9.
All right, 9, any other member items or reports? We'll start, Nancy, with you.
Yeah, I have something I'd like to bring up. With the onset of both storms, the last two, I've noticed throughout Pelican Preserve that the curb grates have been filled up with landscaping debris. In my own community, I took it upon myself to grab the landscaping chair and clean those right before the storm hit. And I'm just wondering if we could consider making sure that those grates during hurricane season, perhaps once a month or whatever, are appropriately cleaned on the top.
Nancy, just, the ponds group did go around right before the storm and cleaned any that we saw. So it was done by the volunteers.
Okay.
So it doesn't mean that it doesn't have value to ask that the maintenance group look at it too, but I think ponds has a pretty good handle on that.
Okay, I just know a couple days before they weren't clean, so.
Right, exactly. And, you know,
Okay.
it was like in the day before preparation.
Okay.
I think if I remember correctly as well, ponds handled inside of Pelican because our staff was taking care of everything else in Gateway, and we don't have any volunteers to help us out, so your ponds committee, subcommittee nicely did that for us.
Thank you.
For sure. Anything else, Nancy?
Nope, that's it.
Marty?
Are we ready to adjourn?
No, we need to have any member reports, and
Right.
then you can do it.
I have nothing.
Okay. Alan?
No.
Just a quick question, status of the engineering study for the preserve, the golf carts being able to go into the preserve?
I do not have an update on that. I know that there were some preliminary discussions, but I've been removed from that process.
The report was finished by Passarella, I believe, Friday.
In the process, we would recommend to the board the next step, or,
Depending on what this process tells us.
right, okay. That's it.
Nothing?
I have one thing.
Laura?
I just wanted to let you guys know that this morning, as I'm sure you're already all well aware, someone took out the gates at about 10 to 9 this morning in the resident lane. I spoke to the gentleman. The gates have been put back up. There are some electrical issues with the lights on there, and I stopped and talked to Nathan on my way in because Daniel's off at training now this week. So he said that it looked like those lights were not connected pre-accident, like there was some issues they were working through. The connectors were the resident gates. The arms, yeah, the arms were, one was completely knocked off, but they're both back. But there are no lights on them right now, which is an electrical thing, but we have called Hands-Free to come and take care of it. So he said it looked like for sure one of them was not working pre-accident. So there was some issues with one of them already before that. So the Hands-Free has been contacted to come out and take care of
And
those.
that becomes incumbent upon the residents' insurance?
It depends on the cost, yeah. But the guy did, I mean, he called, he went right to the office there and he had to wait for them to open because they didn't open till 9. And then they gave him our number, he called, he talked to Georgia, and then I called him, and he has my direct contact information now, so I'll be working with him
And
to.
we're buying
sort it.
glasses?
He's 84 years old,
Like I
so,
said, we're buying
yeah.
glasses.
He tailgated, he said it was his fault, so, yeah. He thought that the gate was
Surprise,
open,
surprise.
but it wasn't, and it was like a whole thing, so, anyway, he was very sorry, and he said, I did it, my bad, I broke it, so,
Well, that's at least
he owned
good.
it, he owned it.
Good for him.
Laura, can you describe for me what the process was for raising the back gates during declaration of the storm?
There was I don't know what Chelsea's logic was with this, but I believe it's because the evacuations were issued. They started, we opened them for that.
When security left the main gate, security come watching them.
Because of the,
They were open before
because of the
that.
Yeah, they were
evacuation.
open.
Yeah,
They were
I think
open
we were
before that.
leaving.
And I'm telling you, you should have put a sign up on Gateway that told everybody to come on through, because they came on through.
Did they really?
Yes, they did.
Okay, yeah, we just had some questions on what was the authorization for that.
Yeah,
We
it
said
came
it
from
was-
us, yeah.
It's like
'Cause
somebody told them, come on.
And I think it was, we had all the plan, like when the gatehouse would be taken over by, well, and so we kind of coordinated that all together.
You know, the other thing I noticed is when we had one of the gates closed off, it was being fixed. The other one was open and the guard was just waving everybody through. I mean, he wasn't checking IDs or anything.
Good point.
Our next meeting is November 14th. Is everyone going to attend?
Yes.
Will anyone not be there?
We are confirming.
We are confirming.
14th, it is on my agenda.
I'm good to go.
And to Nancy, we have drinks at the kiosk that night, so we gotta move along.
That's right. I have no problem with that.
You're invited.
All right. No other comments? Marty, do you want to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
I think Marty's second, so he always has the final voice.